Hey, welcome to this NJAPM lunchtime seminar. I am Art Lieberman, and even though I moved away from New Jersey 10 years ago, I still maintain my membership in the NJAPM. Issues that are raised in New Jersey usually apply down here in North Carolina also. As regarding child support, I work closely with the New Jersey Division of Family Development Office of Child Support Services, and I also work with the AOC, Family Practice Division. So I'm going to be showing you how to calculate child support using the DivorcewareNJ program. If you have any questions, at the bottom of your screen, you should see an icon for Q&A. If you don't see it, just move your mouse around and it should show up, and click on Q&A and type in your question. And at some point, I hopefully will get an answer to everybody. Alrighty? So I'm going to start with downloading and installing the program, the DivorceWare program, only because Windows and a lot of browsers and a lot of virus checkers put up all kinds of warnings. And I want to show you how to work through some of those. Then we're going to build a case from scratch, and I'll explain how the taxes are calculated. At some point, I want to discuss the concepts behind the accuracy of the numbers of what the child support guidelines produce. We'll go through 50-50 situations and the ODD, the other dependent deduction. All right, hopefully if we don't run out of time. Sometimes if I'm talking too fast, somebody needs to send me a Q&A saying, slow down. So, we'll also take a peek at the case information statement. So we're going to start with downloading and installing the program. And I'm going to cut over to a screen. All right. I don't know how to get rid of that noise. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's go to here. So I'm using the Chrome browser right now and went to DivorcewareNJ.com, or you can simply type DWNJ.com. It'll take you to the same place. And if we scroll down a little bit, here are some options. If you don't have the program yet and you want to buy it, or if you have the 18 version and you need to download the 19, you're going to click to purchase it. Otherwise, you're going to go to this second one to do upgrading within the 2019 or to download a demo version. So I'm going to click here. And a lot of options down here, but they all go to the same place. It doesn't matter which one of these download buttons you hit. And save it away. And at the bottom of the screen, it's downloading it. Some browsers at this point give a message saying this might be a dangerous file. Tell it to go anyway. It's not familiar with my program. Windows isn't, or Microsoft isn't familiar with my program. So you'll get warnings there also. So I'm clicking it, telling it to run. Here's the message from Windows telling you it's unrecognized. So if you click on more info, then you can say at the bottom here, run anyway. And it downloads and installs in a hurry. Here we'll click yes. And ready to install it. Installing is very simple. You just agree to the copyright, basically, and then keep clicking next until you get all the way through. And I just click it a whole bunch of times. And next, and launch it, or it will put an icon on your desktop so you can launch it. And we are in. Ready? So I got to change the screen here. There it is. When you start the program, there's maybe 5 or 10 hints that it gives you to remind you about things you can do with the program. And once you've read one of these, you can just click at the bottom there, tell it, don't show me this hint anymore. Next time you log on, it'll probably show you another hint, and you can tell it, don't show me that one anymore. Okay, so at the top, we're going to choose cases, build a new case from scratch. So at the bottom, add a new case, and give it a name. How about Bob versus Susan? Now in the middle here, you're going to be inputting your numbers. Some of them are annual, some of them might be monthly, some of them might be weekly. So it's at this point, it's just asking what most of the numbers are going to be in. All right, and usually I either pick annual or monthly. It doesn't matter, you can always change that later. Clicking OK, and we're in. So on this first screen, we're just filling in basic information. Plaintiffs might be Robert Smith and defendant Susan Smith. On the right, we could fill in the county, the docket number. At this point, right here in the middle of the screen for the year, normally you pick the tax tables that we're supposed to be working with. The latest version is the 2019. You could, if you wanted to, see what the guidelines would look like if you were using it in 2018 or 17 or 16. But normally keep the current year there. And the parent of primary residence, we're going to set up as being Susan. And the number of overnights with the other parent. So 1 out of 7, it could be 2 out of 7. Let me go up, there we go. It's telling you now when you pick 2 out of 7, we're moving to a shared parenting instead of so. It's automatic. Doesn't have to be out of 7. You could say 25 out of 365 or any combination you want. All right. And here it's showing you that 2 out of 7 is 29% of the overnights. And right here is saying it's a shared parenting arrangement. You can override this if you want. It's not advised, but we're allowing some flexibility here. There are some rare circumstances where you may want to change that over to so parenting. We're going to put 2 children in the family. How about child 1? Born in 03, 06, 2016. That child's 3 years old. The next one, child 2. We'll make that person a teenager. 05, 02, 2006. How's that? 13 years old. If I go to another screen, it's actually going to give me a warning here. The number of people residing in the household has to be greater than the number of children. I hope there's at least a parent in the house. So right here, we're going to say there's 3 people in the house. Okay. And pretty much done with this screen. Now at the bottom, you can put some notes to yourself. They will not show up on the printed worksheets when you're done. All right, let's go through the various sections of the form. Clicking on income. These line numbers on the left-hand side, they match up with the line numbers on the printed guidelines forms. So, gross taxable income, not including alimony, just gross income. Click on one of these numbers, and here we can put in, let's say the PPR, Susan makes, let's say, $35,000 a year. 30,000, $35,000 weekly, monthly, annually. And Robert's making 120,000. I have enough zeros? I do. Here's the thing you need to know about the guidelines. everything is supposed to work in weekly numbers. Income is weekly, support is weekly, all expenses are weekly, but we think in terms of annual income or monthly support. So you can enter the numbers any way you want. You can put in $120,000 a year. The catch is $120,000 a year does not work out to an even number of dollars for the week. Pull up a calculator here under Tools, Calculator, and if I put in $120,000 and divide that by 52, didn't mean that, back up here. $120,000 divided by 52, and we get 2307 and 69 cents. So we need to round that to a whole dollar. So it's going to be $2308 per week. If we take $2808 per week times 52, we get 100. I did something wrong there. Take 2308 times 52, and we better get, yes, $120,016. So DivorcewareNJ has rounded up the 120,000 to be 120,016, so that the weekly number could be a whole number. And that's shown down here at the bottom, that the 2308 becomes 120,016. And similar thing for the 35,000. So I click OK, and you see these new numbers here, 120,016. And the A over here means it's an annual number. Let's go to alimony. There's tax deductible, there's non-tax deductible alimony, and the laws changed just recently. And basically the rule is if the agreement was made prior to 2019, then the alimony can be taxable and tax deductible. If the agreement was first made this year or in future years it'll be, then the alimony is not tax deductible. All right, so let's come down here to non-taxable alimony on line 4. And let's say the PAR is paying support, spousal support of $1,000. Okay, there's still an A over here. We want that to be $1,000 a month. So I'm going to click the A, make it monthly, come back in. And over here on the right, I'm telling it that whenever I change one of these two numbers, change the other one. So the amount paid was moved over to the left to be the amount received. It's put in automatically. If you put in a number of alimony up at the top, it will give you a warning saying, are you sure you know what you're doing? It will let you, but it will remind you that maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Okay. Here's an issue. We have income put in as an annual number. We have alimony put in as a monthly number. So how do you show subtotals? It took a while for me to figure this one out. And the answer is you decide how you want your subtotals to be. So at the very bottom, the right-hand corner, you can pick here, I want to see all the subtotals as weekly or monthly or annually, bi-weekly or semi. So I like to see things in monthly numbers. When I'm working with my clients, generally we talk in terms of monthly numbers. So 120,016 annually, and taxes, we'll come back to that in a second, and taking into account monthly alimony, we're going to end up at 6,075 after tax, after alimony per month, the little M over there. Okay, or we can change that to weekly or annually if you want. Again, my preference is monthly. So we fill in this screen. If you have other non-taxable income, you can fill in those on line 4. But we need to jump over to the taxes screen. We see that there are warnings here at the bottom. telling us that we have not taken enough allowances for the children on the taxes page. So I'm going to click on the taxes icon right here. And here's our taxes screen. Let's go line by line on this. There is a few ways that you're allowed to enter the taxes. There is the Schedule H combined tax table. I'm going to come up here on the upper left, file, the tax table, so we can look at that. And basically it's saying that at any weekly allowance, weekly combined gross weekly income, there we go, and number of exemptions being taken or allowances, it shows you what the total combined tax is. The federal, state, Social Security, and Medicare. And if you're curious, you can go back and look at those numbers for previous years down at the bottom there. So usually you just leave it as combined income, tax table H, and let it do its thing. You leave it at the current year, usually using the single tax rate. And I'll come back to that. Actually, let's do that now. You can put in there that they're married or joint or head of household. Since the guidelines combined tax table, Appendix H, comes predefined, it's defined for single, and there's some rules in there. Single, and there's no taxable alimony. But if any of those change, if you're putting in for married or joint, or if there is taxable alimony, it's going to tell you that you need to switch over to the Pub 15 Circ E method of calculating the taxes. And so it automatically did it right here at the top. There's almost no difference between using the Pub 15 Circ E versus the guidelines combined table. They will be within a few dollars of each other. It's just a technicality of the rule, and I'm not going to spend any time on that right now. But take my word on it. You can pick either one. In fact, you can do the taxes any way you want, because there's an option here to do it manually, or prior year basis, a year-to-date basis. You go to manual entry, you get other fields down here at the bottom. You can handle this any way you want. The guidelines let you make your own decision on that. I'm going to put this back as single. It converted it back to the guidelines combined table, and we move on. This next line, this is going to be a bit confusing. It says number of children claimed for tax credits. So this is not the same as what used to be how many exemptions you're putting on your tax return, including parents. This is just the children. In this case, there's 2 children. Who's taking which child? And so if the mother in this case is taking 1 and the father's taking 1, or the mother's taking both, however you want to go for that. Here's the confusing part, is you put in 2 tax credits, the guidelines are taking a total of 10. That's what I hear it is showing you. And over here, the other parent, even though it put in 0, is taking 2 credits. This is based on the federal W-4 form, which changed radically this year. Let me switch over to that. Here's a W-4 form for 2019. If we scroll down to the 3rd page, here's the form that somebody would fill in, giving you how many credits to be taken. You get 1 for yourself, you get 1 if you're single. Then we come down to line E. If your income, I'm looking right here, the income will be less than 71,000, and we put in Susan's income at 35,000. It says enter 4 for each eligible child. She has 2 kids, that's 8 right there, and 2 for herself, that makes 10. So let's go back to program. And there's our 10 total credits. And the same thing would happen with the other parent totaling 2. The high number of credits and really skews the taxes. So I'm going to click finish at the bottom here. The taxes are carried forward, rounded to whole weekly numbers. This is $29.16 per month because I chose monthly at the bottom. I'm sorry, that's the income. Her taxes are only $256 because of those 10 credits. That's just the way it works out. So after tax income, after spousal support, then we're split to share of income of 38% and 62% down on line 7 here. All right, so that's the income page. Allocations, basic child support amount. That is from the Schedule F table. And let me take you to that. Upper left, choosing File. Here is a Schedule F. Which says, based upon how much money the person makes and how many kids, there is the basic amount of child support. All right, this is the child support award table. This table is supposed to be updated every 4 years. It's been, I think, 5 years since it's been updated. And I'm guessing that next year they will probably update that table. This says that there should be a combined amount of support. This is the total amount between the 2 parents. The 2 parents should be spending $1,716 a month on the kids, both parents together. The teen adjustment, there's a comment here in red in the middle of the screen. It says that teens are underallocated, underestimated. Because, right, the guidelines use one number, that's 1716, no matter whether the kid is 1 year old or 17 years old. And so there's a problem with that. Older kids cost more, younger kids cost less. So I guess one could argue that if we're getting an increase for teenagers, should we take a reduction for the preteens? But that's not how it works. So the rules say you can take up to 14.6%. And I've gotten you a little button there to make it easier to type in 14.6. But the Office of Child Support Services recommend that you average that number. We have 2 kids, I'm going back to the basic info tab. 2 kids, one is not a teen, one is a teen. So they're recommending that 14.6 be divided, in this case, by 2. Suggesting right here that you should be using 7.3%. But that's up to you what percent you want to put in there. If there were 2 teenagers and 1 non-teen, 1 preteen, you'd use 2/3 of 14.6. All right, so we'll put in our 7.3 and get rid of that comment. And it's showing the next lines that would appear on the guidelines, coming down to an adjusted amount of support that would be paid, $789. And then if there's any other expenses and credits, we can come over to the next screen, next tab. So over here for childcare, that's at the bottom of the screen. And if there is childcare, in this case, if the mother will say is for one of the children is, and this is an annual number, spending $2,000 a year. That's probably low, isn't it? How about $4,000 a year? It's doing some calculations because this affects the taxes, basically is it. And then that number at the bottom is carried up here to the top. Clicking on these fields, you can put in insurance premiums paid by either parent. You can put in unreimbursed healthcare expenses put in for either parent and for each child. So if the PAR is spending an extra $300 per, I'm going to click the A, per month. There we go. Then that would be carried over to here. 300 per month. Again, we had that rounding problem. Let me take you back to that screen. The 300 a month. For healthcare expenses, right, $250 per child per year are already included in the guidelines. So here it's subtracting out what's already included and figuring out and rounding for the week and taking this back to, you're getting credit for $260 per month. If you need me to explain that further, somebody can post a question there. Go to the next tab, other credits, basically the same fields. And we get to our last screen, which would be the bottom of the second page of the guidelines. And we see our child support number of $845 a month or $195 a week. Okay, so this is basically it. At the bottom, you're saying, yeah, I'm going to follow the guidelines. The obliger is the PAR, and there's that number. Or you could overwrite it, say, I'm not going to follow it, and you just type a number in down in this field. Pretty simple. So that's the whole thing for a standard child support guidelines. And let's go look at the results here. I'm going to click on the print button at the bottom. And we can look at all the pages. Let's do that quickly. We'll look at all the pages we printed or only the 2 worksheet pages. We can look at it in 2 different forms. The informal version is just as I typed them in with annual numbers and monthly numbers. If we go for the formal version, then we're saying show everything as weekly numbers. Okay, technically the rules say everything's supposed to be presented as weekly numbers, but the courts do accept other formats. And of course have not been complaining when people turn in annual numbers or anything else. So we'll leave it on informal, and I'm going to click preview on the screen instead of printing it out. For those of you who have been using previous versions, we've changed how this works. You used to have to click the escape key to go to the next page. Now we're using the page up and page down buttons. Go from page to page. Alrighty? So the cover sheet, which you do not turn into the court, but it's for your own use. Hit page down. And here's the first page. Okay, and because we've put on our numbers as annual and monthly, it's indicated here. Go to the next page, page down. Here's the second page of the guidelines. And comments are filling in here, and they wouldn't all fit in this box. So it's adding another page down here. So I'm gonna hit the page down button again. And for more comments, where it's explaining the 10 credits, the 2 credits, just so everybody understands what's going on. I hit page down, and there's more. Let me bring this up to full size. There we go. This is that childcare worksheet that you put in. Again, you would not submit that to the court. Page down, and here are those. Here it is. The unreimbursed healthcare expenses I put in, and page down, and all the tax information that we put in, and we're back to where we started. So where to go next? Let me look at my crib sheet. What do we want to do? Annual, monthly, spousal support, rounding, taxes, W-4, teenage adjustment. We've covered that. Printing. On printing, if you want to output to a PDF file, I click print here. And it's asking, which printer you want to use. And I see I don't have the option I wanted to show you on here. But there are available basically printer drivers to put out to a PDF file. If you go to a website called Bullzip, B-U-L-L-Z-I-P, and look for the Bullzip PDF printer. It's free. It's really handy to use. And once you install it, then when you click on print and choose a printer, in here you'll see the Bullzip printer. And that will produce your your worksheet as a PDF file for your own use or for you to give to your clients. I highly recommend doing that. The guidelines, let's go to, back up here for a second, choose File, the Awards, and go all the way to the bottom. There we go. So this table, this is the child support table, only covers net weekly income up to $3,600. 36, oops, let's go to the calculator. That's not on this sheet. Grab my phone real quickly. And the calculator, 3,600 times 52 is $187,000 a year. Table only goes that high. If you put in a large number, just put this person in at $250,000 a year. Because the basic child support amount on line 8 is beyond the range of the support table, teenage allowance percentage is being reset to 0, okay? And because it's off the end of the table, the guidelines support table, that Appendix F, cannot be used. So on line 8, it is showing you what the highest amount would be for as far as the table goes. So let's go to line 8. Okay. Go to the allocations page, line 8. It's showing you 589, the biggest number that we can get. There's an alert here saying it's greater than $3,600 a week, cannot be supported. So you probably want to override this amount. You should override this amount. But you cannot simply extrapolate. You can't take the highest one and divide it by dollars and see what percent you are and take it out. It doesn't work that way. There's a point where people who are making really high incomes, they do not spend much more on their kids. They've already spent as much as they can. So you're allowed to override this with your own number and carry that on through. And on the last page, you would say that the guidelines are not being followed and put in your own amount. Okay, you cannot simply extrapolate above that number. Life doesn't work that way. And again, if you have more questions on that, I will give more time to that later. So I want to show you, I want to talk a second about the accuracy and the precision of these numbers. Let's take this income number back down to 120,000. It's telling you, okay, it's recalculating that number automatically again. It refilled in that line 8 where it should be. Here's the thing. If we look at this Appendix F, Schedule Awards, it says, for example, somebody who's making between $285 and $294 a week with 2 children, on average, they spend $94 a week on that child. How accurate can this table be? Nobody is the average. It's a study that someone did several years ago. Numbers change, but this table is fixed for 4 years. the child support guidelines are just a guideline. It's not a rule. You do not have to follow the guidelines. You just have to turn in a form, but you don't have to follow them. You just have to put in a reasonable number, okay? The taxes, while we're using this Schedule E, Hub 15, they're not taking into account other deductions that you might have when you file your 1040. So these are just approximations of your taxes. If you use two different child support programs, you might get slightly different answers because of how, primarily because of how rounding is done. Different programs might round the numbers to come up with those weekly numbers in different ways. So you're going to get different numbers. And, you know, I recommend you not take these numbers as absolutes. Probably half of my clients use the guidelines, half of my clients don't. They might use as a guideline as a guideline, but then come up with numbers on their own, usually using budgeting. How much does it cost to raise your kids? The half of my clients who use the guidelines, it's usually because they don't want to take the time to figure out good numbers by doing budgeting, looking into what does it cost to raise your kids. So, you know, don't get into arguments over these numbers. If two attorneys get two different numbers, then you got to negotiate between the two. Neither of them are wrong. So you got to come up with numbers yourself that everybody can agree on. And where this is handy is, first of all, if you go to court, the judge just says fill out the form, and there's a number. There's no arguing. And if the two sides fill out the same form, get the same number, then the parents can just agree, yes, we accept that number, regardless of how it came up. And that just eliminates a lot of arguing. All righty. So next on my agenda, let's go to 50-50 parenting. Basic info. What if this were 2 out of 4 nights, 50-50, or 10 out of 20, or however you want to put it in? Okay, we see here in the middle it's 50-50. There's another hint about 50-50 here. We can click on that button, or we can come up to the top under options and talk about 50-50 support. And it will take us to another screen where it gives you options of 2 different methods. One is the Wunsch-Defler method, which has its own calculation, which I'm not going to go into detail now. You can read how it works here. But you can tell the program to use that method. Or another method is to do things in proportion to the costs. And you agree about how that works. And I have a thank you to Anju for helping me work through that calculation, make it work. So whichever route we're using, we click on that, and the numbers are automatically adjusted in the spreadsheet for you. First of all, one of the reminders, we need to put this back to 7.3, because you remember that when we had the very high income, so the teenage adjustment just didn't apply anymore. And then there's a reminder that down here in red that the Wunsch-Defler method is being used. And over here, it's reminding you about the 50-50 option, how it came up with these numbers. Okay, so all you have to do is go to your 50-50 options, click on what you want to use, or use neither, and figure it out yourselves, and it's all done automatically. Next, the other dependent deductions. Since I see we have time, let's do that. Let's go back to income, and let's say there is a child of yet another relationship that, let's say that the PAR in this example is paying for another child. So we come down to line 2D, the other dependent deduction, and just click anywhere over there. And it comes up with some instructions. And basically what it's going to do The process for the ODD involves actually 3 worksheets. The first one would be, what is the child support you'd be paying if you just had the other child? What is it if you didn't have that other child? And then the third one averages the 2 numbers. So we're going to say that the alternate parent has the other child, and we're going to work on another spreadsheet because we need to take into account the other parent, the other child's other parent. There we go. Income. So the alternate parent, go to that other dependent worksheet, and it gives you some guidelines here, how to use it. And it's basically the same forms, but we blocked out things that you do not change. So over here in that other relationship, there's 1 child, and we'll call it child 3. With a birth date of 0405 07 2018. A 1-year-old. And what is that other parent's income? It might be 70,000 a year. Or is that 700? 7B. There we go. Right? Because we have to put everything in weekly numbers, it works out to so much per week times 52, works up to be 69,992 instead of 70,000. Just have to accept that. There's a lot of rounding that goes in. And even the 52, there are not exactly 52 weeks in a year, but the guidelines say we're defining a year as being 52 weeks. Oh, something I forgot to mention about that, alimony, whether it's tax deductible or not. Right, in New Jersey, when you're doing New Jersey taxes, alimony can still be tax deductible. The state did not follow the rules of the federal government or the IRS. But for the purpose of the guidelines, the rule is the state follows the federal. So we're not doing the situation of, yeah, it's deductible for the state, but not deductible for the federal. It is the new spousal support. Spousal support assigned 2019 or later. For the purpose of the guidelines only, that we're treating the state as also non-tax deductible or taxable, okay? If you want to go the other route and make some half and deductible and some not deductible, then you can do your own taxes, right? That's an option here. Under taxes, you can always put in manual entry. So we're still back here on the other parent, the other dependent deduction for the other parent, making 70,000 a year and giving that person a tax credit. And it's pretty much not much else to fill out. We have, maybe you're paying some healthcare for that other child of $3,000 a year. Okay, so that's all taken into account. And after you have all this filled in, basically you're just going to say save exit. You're taken back to your original form. Okay, and you will see over here under, here it is, on the credit screen, how the other dependent adjustment is being taken into account. The 45 and the 70, they get averaged out. I hope this works. Should be over here. Look at weekly subtotals. There we go. Averaged out the 2. So there's an adjustment of $58 on that. And then when we print out the forms and view them, you're going to see all 3 versions of the worksheets. So you can actually, if you want, trace what's happening as it's moving numbers from line 14 of one to a different line of the other, carrying the numbers forward. I'm not going to take time right now to go through that, but we can, because I'm running out of things to talk about. Let's see, case information statement, real quickie. We can always come back to this one. I'm going to do a save here. Case information statement. Up here on the top, I'm going to click CIS. Open a CIS for this case. And it's going to create this file. Tell you the name of the file if you want to know it. And I hope this works. Let's see if I can show you another screen. There, CIS is ready for use. And we're going to go to that spreadsheet. So, or that CIS. Let's see if I can find it here. Now I can switch that other screen. Share over to here. This is just, technically, it doesn't look like it, but it's an Excel spreadsheet. And down here at the bottom in green are the various pages of the CIS statement. So it is carried forward over from the worksheet, some of the information, not very much, just the parents' names on income screen. It is carried over the children's names. And that is about it. The link between the two, between the spreadsheet, the CIS, and the Child Support Guidelines worksheet is very limited. Once you've created this, no information is carried back and forth between the two. All right, you can fill this in, you can print this out, you can see all the pages. At the top is for printing all the pages. When we're done, we're going to say save and exit. And we get back to the guidelines. So if you make any changes in here on income or anything else, it is not updating the CIS statement. You can go back and forth to it. We can still go to it. So it's making it easy to find it, but information is not carried back and forth between the two. Ready? And it is actually just a spreadsheet. I didn't want to do that. Okay, I think we're back. So that was just a quickie. So you have access to the CIS. You can print those out. In fact, you can print out an option up here, print out a blank CIS. You can print out blank, there it is, print out blank worksheets. There's actually an intake questionnaire you can give to your clients that they use to fill out the guidelines. Yeah, if you're paying to buy blank worksheets, I think, I'm trying to remember the name of the company in New Jersey. Is it called Allstate, maybe? You don't need to do that. You can print the blank worksheets right from here. So I really am running out of things to say. I'm hoping somebody pops up with a question. Under File, you can look at your tables anytime you want. The poverty guidelines are there. When you are, let's go out of here, exit. Remind us to close the CIS worksheet. It knows it's still open. Now we got to close all these. Go away. There we go. Under the list of cases, if we go to like Jones versus Jones, it shows all the previous versions that you worked on, and you can choose to go to the work that you did yesterday if you want to. So what else can I show you? Under cases, if we go to manage, you can copy cases, rename them, delete them. It'll keep as many cases as you want and as many versions of each case as you want. When you start getting 10, 20, or 30 cases in there, you may want to flag some of them as being inactive. And it will show all the inactive ones at the bottom, so it makes it easier for you to find what you're working on. Back to Bob and Susan. Somebody asked another question about high incomes. What you need to keep in mind is you can do whatever you want with the child support number, as long as it's reasonable, or as long as the two of you agree on it, actually. If you have high income, actually, I've had clients where they both had high income and they chose to have no child support. We're both making 180,000 or 150 or 220,000 a year. I don't need any help. Why don't we just put down 0? That's perfectly allowable. If somebody's making 20,000 and the other person's making 80,000 and they agree to 0, you probably need a really good reason to convince a judge that that's okay. So, you know, if you're doing your own budgets and they come up with smaller numbers, that's fine. That's why on the last page here, you have that option of child support guidelines will not be followed. And then you just type in the amount that you want to put there of $200 a week. And at the bottom, you put in why. Put an explanation of why you chose to not follow the guidelines. Okay? So somebody's asking for a little bit more information about 50-50 parenting. If we go to the 50-50 support, it's warning me about, let's go out of here for a sec. I'm going to undo the other dependent deduction. I'm going to say not using the other dependent deduction right there. Okay. Now let's go to 50-50. 2 out of 4 nights. Clicking on 50-50 over here or 50-50 up in the menu. Actually, I was getting his help for it. Tells how it works. 50-50 up here at the top. Okay, the which I have to explain this. Somebody's asked. I'm just reading what it says here on the screen. About the 25% of the assumed controlled expenses. There's these 37 and 35, 25, these numbers that are assumed for various portions of expenses. Again, these are just approximations that some study showed up. And all I can tell you is to follow these 3 steps here. And that will divide up the child support, the proportion of child support based on that method. 50-50 method, this other approach, is basically saying that you do the child support assuming it's not 50-50. And then you, with one person being the primary. And then you flip it and you make the other person the primary. So you get 2 different child support numbers. You take those and you average them out. And use that as your child support number. Let's back up on this. Use neither. If while you're putting these numbers in, and all of a sudden you realize I have them backwards, that the PPR is the one making the 120,000, you can come under options and you can swap the columns. So you'll see the 34 and the 120 and all the calculations will swap. Swap columns, little information telling you what to do. That it's swapping, and everything's been adjusted. All right. So with the PPR making 120, at the bottom we see that it says child support amount is -31. That means that the PPR is paying the PAR instead of the other way around. We've got a -31. If we go back and swap the columns back, child support is 136, that the PAR is paying the PPR $136 a week. So if we go over to 50/50, and a way of looking at this is the one parent is paying the rich parent is paying the other parent $31 a week for a year. How much does that add up to? And then the other route, I'm trying to remember what our number was here. The rich parent is paying to the other parent $136 per week for a year. Multiply all those up and average it out. That's the concept here. And it will come up to $84 a week. It should be the amount of child support. Okay, and the Wunsch-Defler came up with moved $57 to line 15, and this came up with $84. Different methods coming up with different numbers that are widely apart. Again, it's a matter of what the two sides agree to. And I think that that's an adequate answer for almost every question. It's up to what the two sides agree to. Any more questions? Okay, we're about done. So you can find more information at the DWNJ website. And again, the installation is really simple. And I'm hoping using this is really simple. There is a manual. There's a lot of help screens, right? Every line has a help tab over here. You can get more information. And you can always contact me. So thank you very much. And stay tuned for the next lunchtime seminar. Take care.